us of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, among the souls there are no small, no big, no important, no ordinary. They are all equal and all divine in their origin. My help is with you and will never fail you. My love is with you and will never fail you. I am indeed the friend of the bad days and the companion in the ascent towards the truth, where the Lord will carry you forever in His almighty arms. The worse the circumstances, the greater the love of the Lord. Think only of the Lord, concentrate only on the Lord, and you will feel that to be near Him compensates all possible miseries, even the physical ones. The Lord always listens and always answers, but to be aware of His answer, certain conditions are to be fulfilled. Your soul is always with me, so close to me, a great love unites us. So if you keep a constant contact with your soul, you will feel at least the comfort of this love which compensates most of the world's miseries. With love and blessing, says our Divine Mother.
Half conscious of the tawdry, listening light, dimly she glided between banks of sleep, at rest in the slumbering palaces of peace.
The Mother, Part 1, written by our Lord Aurobindo, Chapter 1, page 1. Our Lord Aurobindo says, there are two powers that alone can effect in their conjunction the great and difficult thing which is the aim of our endeavor, a fixed and unfailing aspiration that calls from below, and a supreme grace from above that answers. But the supreme grace will act only in the conditions of the light and truth. It will not act in conditions laid upon it by the falsehood and the ignorance. For if it were to yield to the demands of the falsehood, it would defeat its own purpose. These are the conditions of the light and truth, the sole conditions under which the highest force will descend, and it is only the very highest supramental force descending from above and opening from below that can victoriously handle the physical nature and annihilate its difficulties. There must be a total and sincere surrender. There must be an exclusive self-opening to the divine power. There must be a constant and integral choice of the truth that is descending, a constant and integral rejection of the falsehood of the mental, vital, and physical powers and appearances that still rule the earth nature. Our Lord Aurobindo says, the surrender must be total and seize all the parts of the being. It is not enough that the psychic should respond and the higher mental accept, or even the inner vital submit and the inner physical consciousness feel the influence. They must be in no part of the being, even the most external, anything that makes a reserve, anything that hides behind doubts, confusions, and subterfuges, anything that revolts or refuses. If part of the being, says our Lord, if part of the being surrenders, but another part reserves itself, follows its own way, or makes its own conditions, then each time that happens, you are yourself pushing the divine grace away from you. If behind your devotion and surrender you make a cover for your desires, egoistic demands, and vital insistences, if you put these things in place of the true aspiration or mix them with it and try to impose them on the divine Shakti, then it is idle to invoke the divine grace to transform you. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, if you open yourself on one side or in one part to the truth, and on another side are constantly opening the gates to hostile forces, it is vain to expect that the divine grace will abide with you. You must keep the temple clean if you wish to install there the living presence. If each time the power intervenes and brings in the truth, you turn your back on it and call in again the falsehood that has been expelled, it is not the divine grace that you must blame for failing you, but the falsity of your own will and the imperfection of your own surrender. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, if you call for the truth and yet something in you chooses what is false, ignorant, and undivine, or even simply is unwilling to reject it altogether, then always you will be open to attack and the grace will recede from you. Detect first what is false or obscure in you and persistently reject it. Then alone can you rightly call for the divine power to transform you. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, do not imagine that truth and falsehood, light and darkness, surrender and selfishness can be allowed to dwell together in the house consecrated to the divine. The transformation must be integral, and integral, therefore, the rejection of all that withstands it. Reject the false notion that the divine power will do and is bound to do everything for you at your demand, and even though you do not satisfy the conditions laid down by the Supreme. Make your surrender true and complete, then only will all else be done for you. Reject too the false and indolent expectation that the divine power will do even the surrender for you. The Supreme demands your surrender to her, but does not impose it. You are free at every moment. You are free at every moment till the irrevocable transformation comes to deny and to reject the divine, or to recall your self-giving if you are willing to suffer the spiritual consequence. Your surrender must be self-made and free. It must be the surrender of a living being and not of an inert automation or mechanical tool. Our Lord Sri Aurobindo says, an inert passivity is constantly confused with the real surrender, but out of an inert passivity, nothing true and powerful can come. It is the inert passivity of physical nature that leaves it at the mercy of every obscure or undivine influence. A glad and strong, helpful submission is demanded to the working of the divine force, the obedience of the illumined disciple of the truth, of the inner warrior who fights against obscurity and falsehood, of the faithful servant of the divine. This is the true attitude, and only those who can take and keep it Preserve a faith unshaken by disappointments and difficulties, shall pass through the ordeal to the supreme victory and the great transmutation.
Away from this sinking creature's burdened hours, to free and griefless spaces, now she turns. Here was the childhood of primeval earth, imperial acres of the eternal sower, and wind-stirred grassland winking in the sun, or mid green musing of wood and rough browed hills. In the groves, murmurous bee air, humming wild, or past the long, laping voice of silver floods, like a swift hope journeying among its dreams, hastened the chariot of the gold